Hegseth has done, regardless of his military service, outside of his military service, are what made him incredibly unqualified.
I mean, just to be able to rely on Pete Hegseth's experience alone, on his qualifications alone, should scare the crap out of anybody.
We've never had a less qualified Secretary of Defense than Pete Hegseth.
Here's what's funny about that. They use the same criticism in attacking Donald Trump. He doesn't have political experience. So
I love it.
For the first time, Vice President J.D. Vance cast the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
In officially confirming the tarred and feathered, but very qualified and should be fun, Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of Defense.
On this vote, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 50. The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the nomination is confirmed.
Oh, also, Billy, have the afuera ready. Vance, and here's the thing, he shouldn't have to, considering the amount of Republicans that we have there.
That's right, yeah.
But he had to cast the tie-breaking vote because 3 Republicans voted no. And I'll get to the only possible justifications for no in a second, which tells you even more about these Republicans. But let me give them to you. Lisa Markowski.
Afuera. Inner feelings.
Susan Collins.
Afuera. Inner feelings.
And Mitch McConnell.
Afuera.
All of these people voted yes on Lloyd Austin, but even worse for Mitch McConnell, where I don't even know what Republican means anymore for a guy like this.
Yeah.
After the vote, he walked over to the baby-killing, soul-sucking Democrats to celebrate. Here you go. He's, to be fair, he's kind of wandering. I don't know that he knows where he is.
He's looking for his nurse.
Yes.
I heard there's a sandwich over here.
I tried.
There's American cheese.
Everybody else is celebrating on the other side, and he's like, I'm going to waddle over here and talk to these guys.
When your only contributive skill is to bump elbows, shake hands, and make deals and compromise and politic, you really shouldn't be representing anybody. He provides nothing of value anyway. Hegseth was confirmed. Of course, the left threw a fit, which means it's time for the latest installment of Leftist Meltdowns.
You are voting for the devil.
And by the way, they're talking about it on CNN. They were just talking about Hegseth supporting deportations. Well, good. So
do the majority of Americans.
And we'll get to, and you can comment what you think about. We've talked about Hegseth, but I'm very convinced that the attacks are entirely fabricated now, because if there were any other substantial reasons to oppose it, you'd hear about them. Instead, you hear he got drunk and people had to carry him to his hotel room at a party, and some lady says he groped her even though there were no actual charges. So, okay, fine, what else you got? The leftists, of course, freaked out. We have a montage here on air about Hegseth.
The things that Hegseth has done, regardless of his military service, outside of his military service, are what made him incredibly unqualified.
I mean, just to be able to rely on Pete Hegseth's experience alone, on his qualifications alone, should scare the crap out of anybody.
We've never had a less qualified Secretary of Defense than Pete Hegseth. He's unqualified because he's morally unqualified.
And they're going to know what we know. He's completely unqualified for this job. He has not proven that he can lead any organization.
Here's what's funny about that. They use the same criticism in attacking Donald Trump. He doesn't have political experience.
Good.
He's declared bankruptcy a couple of times. Okay.
Maybe the government should consider that.
There's protections you get and you reorganize and relaunch the business.
So
he hasn't been manipulated by lobbyists.
Right.
Oh, good.
They go, aside from his military qualifications, which, he is unqualified, but those are the most relevant qualifications. Yeah, but he likes butts. Oh, I'm fine with that.
And beer.
Okay, good. Don't make me like him more. So then you have these leftists who took to X, all references available, link in the sidebar. Brooklyn Dad Defiant, this...
Former crackhead.
Yeah.
His name is Defiant because he defied child support.
Yes. He said, breaking, the Senate has just voted to confirm Pete Hegseth, a drunken, out-of-control abuser, as the weakest Secretary of Defense in history. A drunken, okay, hearsay, Out of control abuser, hearsay. You see, this is why it's not as effective anymore. Hit pieces, whether it's coming out in the New York Post, whether it's coming out in Newsweek, people saying, actually, at one point he made me uncomfortable. That's all they have, which tells you that it's very likely made up. Doesn't necessarily mean so, but I assume so.
And I also have a problem with that logic. A drunken, out-of-control abuser doesn't sound weak to me.
Yeah,
like that might
true.
be a bad thing, but it also does not sound like a weak person.
A drunken, out-of-control abuser usually is not allowed to see their kids.
Right.
True. Yes. Look in a mirror.
That's a good point. Drunk Biden, abuser Biden, likes to grope Biden.
It was in a diary.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but also the other lady who he groped. But then, of course, you also have his daughter. This was the closest vote for SecDef. He abbreviates it, so I appreciate that about him. Yeah. Needing the weird couch guy to break the tie.
Oh, boy.
It's a sad day for America. Hegseth is a DUI hire.
Oh, I see what you did.
And then they'll bitch about how Donald Trump uses ad hominem.
Yeah. So that's the guy that tried to sell his kids for crack.
Legit?
Legit.
Oh, wow. Yes. I did not know this.
How much crack can
this guy is such a...
You prepare a segment for us, too, man.
This guy is a what? You want to do a what a piece of shit?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. He's like a what an irrelevant piece of shit. This
he's gotten better.
Well, he gets to be amplified, and he's cited as a source all the time. So Tim Miller said, absolutely ludicrous to confirm a Secretary of Defense with bipartisan opposition via a tiebreaker.
Who's Tim Miller?
It's like that's never happened before. A tiebreaker. It's almost like it's in the rules for a reason.
It's set up there.
Yeah. Like what? Yeah. The first time I've ever played Uno, and you make me skip my turn. It's one of the cards.
Yeah.
It's probably my favorite card, especially if you're sitting next to me. Bernie Sanders. Hegseth has defended war criminals and rejected international law. He's a prominent advocate for privatizing the VA. First off, that's not true. Here's what they're talking about privatizing. People like Hegseth, and myself included, we believe that if you're a veteran, it should be, like we've talked about school choice, a credit where the veterans can take it to any in-network hospital as opposed to designating them to one, where they can actually use this to pick their doctor, to choose their care. You're a veteran.
Well, luckily I live in the DFW area, so I there's one within an hour. But a lot of people, good for me. But for a lot of people, they don't have one.
Yeah.
They don't have one within 2 hours, 3 hours. So it's like, okay, emergency, you can get that covered. But if you have anything to do, real work to do, you have to go hours. I know guys have to get flights. They have to drive hours just to go to appointments. It's ridiculous. Why can't I just go somewhere down the street?
Yeah. Well, that's because the left assumes that the system should exist and the solution is more money, more money, more money. Whereas this is funny is when the left, they love to sort of fancy themselves. We'll get to President Petro of Colombia, revolutionaries. There's nothing revolutionary about putting more money into a broken system. And the people they hate are actual revolutionaries, be it literal or figurative. I mean, actual revolutionaries, the Revolutionary War, right? The founding fathers, they hate and they tear down their monuments. Or figuratively, someone saying, hey, let's revolutionize our VA system. Let's give veterans more choice. You have to understand the worldview. People like Bernie Sanders believe public schools, great, give them more money. VA, great, give it more money. He was forced to step down from leading two advocacy groups after repeated allegations of financial mismanagement, sexual harassment, and alcohol abuse. I'm voting no.
He can only hold it in for so long, folks.
Son of a bitch! I'm voting no.
Another thing with that VA health, I believe that VA doctors are not held to malpractice insurance. I could be wrong, but I know active duty people are.
There's something along those lines. I don't know the actual, the technical letter of the law, but there have been a lot of problems. It needs to change.
Yeah.
And apparently a guy like this is completely unqualified. You know, the only guy in this kind of position that I can remember who's had to go through all of this.
Yes. None of our guys are qualified. Nobody that the Republicans put up really seemed to be qualified in these guys' eyes, especially if they're outside of the loop.
Speaking of that, and it's going to be a lot of fun, more confirmation hearings this week. Wednesday, we will be covering this. RFK for Secretary of Health and Human Services. Thursday, Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence. And I believe also on Thursday, Kash Patel for the FBI Director. Which one do you think is going to be the most contentious? Comment below. I think either RFK or Tulsi. I would bet RFK just because he's famous. And
I think RFK will be the most contentious. Yeah.
I think it's RFK or Kash Patel because of Kash Patel's personality. I think he's going to have enough people pushing back on him, and he's going to fire right back.
Yeah, enough people scared.
Yeah,
exactly.
What I think.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. If I happen to be RFK and I'd be sitting there and they talk about crazy conspiracy theories, I would answer everything with red dye number 3. I was right. I've been saying it for 20 years, and you did not until about 4 days before this, you ban it. Hey, what about the allegation of red dye number 3? That's it.
It's all you need.
All I would do. Hey, if you're still watching this, I appreciate it, because in today's day and age, people watch for 30 seconds. It's like a dancing nurse or a cat. So thank you. You can also tune in live weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. And now, this, if you click it, otherwise it's nothing. In a way, if you click it, you are the one who created that video, because right now you exist on a timeline where it may not exist. But if you click it, you make it exist.